Hi there, and welcome to the Mindful Marathon podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Quirk, a run coach and pediatrician. Mindful Marathon is all about helping runners of all types to run their own race. Whether you are a seasoned runner or you're just getting started, I want to let you know that you're welcome here and that you're in the right place. All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Mindful Marathon podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Quirk. I am a physician and a run coach and the founder of Mindful Marathon, where I help busy professionals make running easy and fun so they can achieve their fitness goals, improve their health, and embrace mindfulness. And today I have a very, very special guest with me. I have Hannah de Groot here. She is a licensed professional counselor and the owner of Stride Counseling, which is a private practice serving athletes with eating disorders and OCD. A lifelong athlete and recovered person herself, Hannah provides a candid, authentic, and engaging environment to foster self-reflection and growth. So, Hannah, thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored.
Yeah, well, maybe tell us a little bit how you got into this profession and tell us about your running journey as a place to start.
Yeah, good question. So, like you said, I'm a lifelong athlete. I grew up playing sports. My family is very involved in sports. I was a competitive swimmer in high school. I considered doing it in college and then was like, yeah, I want to do my own thing. And I went to Penn State for undergrad where I studied nutrition. The transition from being an athlete to a non-athlete was hard for me. It's just weird to go from having such a set schedule, very defined like practices and ideas of what you do with your day to then not, and also not knowing what to do with fitness. So I started running. It's very similar to swimming. So I was pretty good at it pretty quickly. And simultaneously studying nutrition, my brain just couldn't wrap around not taking everything I learned and perfectly applying it to my life. So I would learn different things about nutrition and then think to myself, okay, I will follow these rules for the rest of my life without considering there's more to life than just not eating certain things. So with those two factors, I developed an eating disorder and I was lucky that I had support from my family and was connected with a therapist and was able to pursue recovery. Around my senior year of college, I decided I wanted to be a therapist rather than a dietitian. So after Penn State, I started graduate school at Temple, where I earned a master's of counseling in psychology. And I worked with student athletes in my internship years at Penn and Temple. And I loved working with the population there, especially the clients who had body image issues or challenges with eating. And it's such an interesting population seeing the nuances of how sports impact body image.
Yeah.
So from there, I worked at an incredible private practice for a few years. And then this past October, I opened Stride, my private practice.
Yeah, congrats. That's
Thank
quite
you.
a journey.
Thank you. Yeah, it's my long-winded answer to your question.
No, no, that's okay. That's okay. I wonder, um, I'm not sure of the numbers, but what would be like the prevalence of this in student athletes? I am not sure. I imagine that it's higher than I think that it is.
Yeah, so a recent statistic actually showed that 84% of college
Wow.
athletes show some form of disordered eating, which that doesn't mean a diagnosed eating disorder, but
Yeah.
staggering statistic. And I believe the rate of high school athletes that have eating disorders, defined eating disorders, is about 42%.
Wow.
So very high.
Yeah, very, very high. So I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, my runners out there who are listening, they know that I talk about fueling and nutrition, and this is a huge topic that comes up in run coaching, no matter what distance you're running, but especially for endurance athletes and longer distances. I wonder if you might maybe talk about some of the signs that an athlete might look for that disordered eating or body image issues may be coming up for them, and maybe they haven't thought about this.
Yeah, good question. I think one of the first signs, so there are three categories. They are behavioral, emotional, and physical. Behavioral and emotional signs and symptoms typically show up sooner, but they're harder to link directly to eating disorders or disordered eating. Whereas behavioral, or rather, sorry, physical signs and symptoms
Hmm.
show up once behaviors have been in practice for some time.
Hmm.
Um, so, some common signs that something mentally is just not right or is off is a lack of joy or loss of joy in the sport. If you run because you love it, which I hope that if you're running, especially marathons, we all know like the training that takes, I hope that you love it. And if you realize somewhere along the way you don't love it or you don't even like it, you feel like you're forcing yourself to do it, it might be helpful to ask yourself why. And that doesn't necessarily mean someone's struggling with an eating disorder or even disordered eating, but that they just need to realize their priorities and question, why am I forcing myself to do something I'm not enjoying?
Hmm.
Directly relating to eating disorders, that can look like rigidity around food, strict rules around food, cutting out entire food groups without a medical diagnosis. I see a lot of people cut out gluten or dairy without their doctors saying, like, you need to cut this out.
Hmm.
Relating to physical signs and symptoms, that can look like losing a period in athletes with uteruses, frequent injuries like overuse injuries, brittle hair or skin and nails. What else?
So many things, but yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot. But most importantly, if someone is, people struggle with their relationships with food, regardless of what signs and symptoms they're exhibiting. If someone is not happy, just ask yourself why. What changes can I make here?
Yeah. Yeah. And that might be, especially with marathon training. I mean, I always say to people that I don't want it to become a part-time job
And
because
it's
we,
so easy because it's so time consuming, but it should be fun. Like we should be enjoying the
yes,
journey.
yes,
Yeah, like
exactly.
you should look forward to your long runs. You should feel proud of yourself when they're done. If you are having anxiety and dread all week leading up to your long run, maybe maybe you don't have to do it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or it might be a sign that it's time for a rest day, some recovery, more sleep, something like that as
Yeah,
well.
totally.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think I coach a lot of professional, very type A individuals, and I think it's hard sometimes. Like, it's very easy to follow the training plan, but almost to the detriment maybe of how you're actually feeling that day. It's like, well, I did the run, but at the expense of what else if I only got 5 hours of sleep last night and I didn't have time to take in fuel before I ran and things like that. I see that a lot.
Yeah, and I can really empathize with those athletes who their income or their job, their livelihood depends on their running. It's so easy for me as a therapist to say, well, if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. But for someone who that's their profession, of course they still have to do it. My goal for someone like that is to find some flexibility in their life. Like you said, taking rest, if their stress is coming from the foods that they're eating, maybe trying to be more flexible so that they're eating things that they enjoy. I always try to encourage my clients, life is about the journey and it's supposed to be fun. That doesn't mean you don't have to do hard things. You do and you should, but let's find ways to do the hard things that we will enjoy the journey.
Yeah. Amen to that. Um, Here's a question just about, the company is Mindful Marathon and we talk about mindfulness a lot. How is disordered eating different from being mindful about eating and like mindful about your nutrition and performance? Like I feel like there can maybe be a fine line there.
I completely agree with you. I think the what would be a phrase for this? What pushes you over the line from rigidity to mindfulness is flexibility.
Mhm.
You're allowed to eat cake on your birthday or for someone else's birthday. Or if you pass a bakery window and there's a cupcake that is calling your name, you can have it. So I think that I approach eating disorder recovery, or just my approach with food, is all foods fit. So I don't want to be encouraging clients to take things away from their plate, but rather to add them. So my answer to your question is practicing flexibility. And if you eat something that's out of your normal comfort zone, giving yourself grace and reminding yourself you're human. And again, life is short, life is meant to be fun, and you are allowed to eat cake.
I love that.
Another, I could talk for this about hours. Another thing
Go
about
ahead.
that, an approach that I take sometimes with clients who have really rigid views about black and white food is I challenge myself to find benefits from anything that I'm eating. There's no such thing as a bad food. And a good example of that, clients will come to me and say, I can't eat potato chips or Oreos because they're junk food. And I can challenge that by saying, well, ultra marathoners actually exclusively really eat potato chips and Oreos during their races. How can we categorize that something as completely off limits if athletes who are doing arguably the hardest thing are allowing themselves to eat it while they're doing the hard thing? There is room for everything.
It's so true. And one of my recent episodes was with a friend of mine. A shout out to Matt. He ran an ultra, and one of my favorite quotes from interviewing him was like he had a piece of pizza, or maybe
Yeah.
several, in the middle of the race, and I just thought like I don't know if I could stomach a piece of pizza in the middle of that, but more power to you.
Yeah, and if you think about it, pizza's like my favorite example too, because people will say like, "Oh, I can't eat pizza, it's bad for you." And I'll say, "Well, you need carbs, quick energy. You need fats, which is in the cheese, and tomato sauce is literally a blended vegetable. So it's actually pretty healthy."
Have the pizza and enjoy the long run.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
I think maybe actually that's a good segue. Something we were talking about earlier. I was thinking about the carbs. I have a lot of runners who are actually they're a bit afraid of carbs. Like I
Mhm.
feel like this is maybe common just out in the world and in the media these days
Mhm.
to be like fearful of carbs and carbs will make you gain weight and all of these things. But the truth is that we really need carbs to fuel the run. And so
Yeah.
a lot of my coaching calls sometimes have to do with just becoming more comfortable with carbs. Like you don't have to go crazy with it at first, but we got to figure out a way to get more in.
Mhm.
Would you have
Mhm.
advice for those people out there listening who are maybe afraid of carbs in the diet?
Yeah, carbs are get a bad rep. They are demonized for no reason. I work with a lot of clients who have fears about eating them. One thing I will plug too is a lot of dietitians in the PA area where you and I live take insurance. In a lot of insurance companies cover a certain amount of nutrition visits for free. So if you are someone who is worried about your performance and unsure about nutrition, there are a lot of performance dietitians who can work with you at no cost if you're using your insurance. Um, and a lot of people don't know that, so I always try to shout it out when I can.
Great tip.
Another, but to answer your question, when people are fearful about the potential consequences of something, I might say, like, what if you I like to take it's called ERP, exposure response prevention. It's basically exposing a person to something they're scared of on small scales, allowing them to tolerate the discomfort. So that might look like if you are someone who doesn't eat any carbs at all, we would find something that is a safer carb and expose you to it and allow you to go on with your day, practice your run, see how it went, try it. That's all. There's try it. If your run goes horribly, we'll figure it out then and troubleshoot from there. But we have to start somewhere, and carbs are arguably, I don't even know if this is arguable actually. I think they are the most important macronutrient for endurance
Yeah.
athletes in general. So
Yeah.
it's something you kind of have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the basic the math is that we only have enough glucose stored in our muscles as glycogen stored in the liver to get pumped out to the muscles while you're exercising to last about 90 minutes. So if
Yeah,
you're running longer than that, you need to
eat
have
along the
more
way.
carb source available.
Uh-huh. And you probably need to be eating along the way, which is
Mhm.
again usually carbs,
Yeah.
because we don't all know this, but I know, and a lot of runners know that if you're eating fats or proteins before or during your run, you can have a stomach ache.
Yeah. The belly does
You
not
might
like
need to
this.
run to the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah. Not recommended.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend that.
Um, I wonder too how this is sort of specific to runners who are underfueling, but what kinds of things do you see in terms of like how this affects the runner over time if they're chronically underfueling and not getting enough in?
Yeah, good question. Well, aside from them seeing me being, I'm a therapist, there's something is wrong with their mental health. They're probably not happy. Physically, runners and athletes who are under fueling for long periods of time chronically develop overuse injuries. They get shin splints, anything that is an overuse injury, they're way more susceptible to.
Hmm.
Um, Athletes with uteruses, they lose their periods, which impact their hormonal health and can potentially impact their fertility later on. There's a lot of physical issues that come, and it's tough because once you're in that cycle of underfueling, even if it's unintentional, it's hard to eat more. So
Hmm.
the goal is to try to increase your intake as you continue on, but the mental component can be tough for some people too.
Yeah, yeah. And it sounds like it could lead to almost like a vicious cycle, but if you're taken out of the sport because of a stress injury or a stress fracture or something like that, and then you can't do the sport, which was giving you a lot of good things, like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all of this plays in and mental health
Yeah.
becomes a huge
Yeah,
factor.
and it's such a cycle too, which is part of why I encourage my clients to try to see themselves as people in addition to athletes. Because if you are injured related to your food intake or not, it's so easy to succumb to mental health challenges. And or even if you retire, move on, life transitions, it's really hard to manage. And myself included, I know how it feels to go from being an athlete to just being a normal person.
Hmm.
And if your self-worth is completely tied to your sport, it's hard to find joy and value in life. But as I've said, there's so much more to life than just your performance.
Hmm. Yeah. At what point, should an athlete or a runner out there listening seek help? I mean, we talked about seeing a nutritionist maybe if that is covered under your insurance and that would be helpful like in the moment. But what usually takes people to someone like you?
Good question. I am an advocate of therapy for all. I see a therapist myself, shout out Anna. I think that everyone can benefit from therapy just in the face or the pursuit of self exploration and someone pointing out your blind spots and in the pursuit of, being a better person. People come to me typically when they have just, unfortunately, people come to me when their eating disorder is relatively pretty established. But I think that people deserve treatment if they have any type of discomfort in their relationship with food. In my professional opinion, it doesn't matter what someone's body size is, it doesn't matter what their gender, racial background is. Anyone who has any type of discomfort in their relationship with food or body deserves care.
I love that. It's a great message.
There's a lot of misconceptions about who can have eating disorders, and
Hmm.
unfortunately, that means that a lot of people don't seek or don't receive treatment.
Yeah, yeah. And I really your statistic at the beginning about the student athletes. I mean, I imagine that the prevalence is a lot higher than even I think it is
Yes,
in especially in the running community.
I have a statistic, a
Oh yeah.
follow-up statistic actually.
Go
So,
ahead. Yeah.
like I said, 84% of student athletes have some form of disordered eating. There's a follow-up statistic that I might butch a little bit, but it is something like only 1.4% of student athletes, collegiate student athletes, actually seek help.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's really a small number.
that's from a 2019 study.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so what are the other 82.5% doing?
Yeah, and then taking that with them into, right, adulthood, young adulthood, but adulthood
Yeah.
and maybe continuing their sport for I don't know how long, but yeah.
Right, and how do behaviors change when they're not an athlete anymore? Which
Yeah.
eating disorders are coping mechanisms for stress. So if you're stressed when you're performing or you're playing your sport and you're a student athlete, you're a college athlete, stress doesn't just go away when you graduate, it just changes.
Changes, yes.
So if that's what you're using to cope with your stress, that doesn't mean it'll go away when you graduate. It just means it might change.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah.
And the stressors that you once had just become different stressors.
Yeah, and you're financially responsible for yourself and you're on your own.
Yep. Well, let's see. How about, do you have maybe a final, like a piece of advice for runners who want to keep a healthy relationship with food and training before I let you go?
Yeah, oh my gosh, where can I start? Again, have fun. Life is too short to not be having fun and not finding enjoyment every single day, even if that means like I'm in love with my dog. So she and I do something fun every day. If you are a runner or an athlete, find reasons to have joy every day and try to be flexible in your routine if you can. Try to find flexibility with food if you can. If you're struggling, please seek help and know you do not have to go through this alone.
Yeah. I think that's a really great message for everyone out there listening that Hannah's here in the Philly area, but there are people everywhere who can help. But maybe tell everyone where they can find you if they are local and they're
Totally.
listening.
So I owned Stride Counseling, which, like you said, is a private practice serving athletes with eating disorders and OCD. As of now, I am eligible for serving Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Florida, Vermont, and Oregon. I Stride has an Instagram account, which is at stride_counseling. If you are the owner of the Just Stride Counseling Instagram page, please answer my DMs. I would like to buy it from you. And my website is www.stridecounseling.co. And if you are the owner of stridecounseling.com, please email me. I would like to buy the domain from you.
I love that. And I will leave those links below. I will double check them when I put them in so I don't get them confused.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks. I get them confused all the time.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us and just, yeah, sharing your light and your joy. I really love your message and what you do.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for listening, and we will catch you on the next one. Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend. And if you have a moment, please rate and review the podcast so that we can reach and encourage others to tie on their sneakers and join us out there on a run. See you next time.